Hello, and my name is Pete Rushmer, and I'm your host today of A Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success, or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we are here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is. Hi, I'm joined today by James and Kirk from Road Radar and Flare. They're a software company who provide road safety solutions, and I think you're going to be fascinated by the solutions that they're offering. If you are interested, there's a link in the show notes, or if you do decide to get in touch direct, make sure you mention A Half Dozen Things podcast. Anyway, take care, catch you soon.
He loves this type of stuff.
Excellent. So I've just had the lady, the nice American lady in my ear telling me that we're rolling, recording's in progress. Got the red light rolling. Got Kirk here and James here from Flare and Busby. Really delighted to have these guys on the podcast. I was actually introduced, just to give our listeners a little bit of an introduction. I was introduced by Beverly Bell. So our listeners may not know who Kirk and James are at this stage, but they're certainly going to know who Beverly is. Beverly was on the podcast a couple of months ago, and she was an absolutely fantastic guest. Former senior traffic commissioner, massive advocate for road safety, and she kindly introduced me to Kirk and James, who I've got on the podcast today. So it's a real pleasure. She is backing the products that they're using, and we're going to be talking about the products that they offer. And the reason that we're going to do that, I don't normally like to use the podcast as a pitch fest, and this isn't going to be a pitch fest. We're just going to be talking about some of the challenges that operators face, road safety. We're going to talk about, a lot around road safety and the way that we can help make people safer. We can help get them the care they need. Flagship as a business, we offer first aid training and first response training, and it all ties in really, really nicely. I was so excited to speak to Kirk and James before Christmas last year, and we had a good chat about collaboration opportunities and that kind of thing. So I feel really honoured to be able to push these guys into the transport manager community. If you're not already become part of the Transport Manager and Consultants Hub on Facebook, come and join the conversation. James and Kirk, just sort of over to you guys. If you guys could just introduce Flare and Busby, introduce yourselves, that'd be great, and then we'll start getting into like the background around the business. Yeah,
that's great. Thanks, Peter, and hello to all the listeners. Happy New Year. I don't know when you get to stop saying Happy New Year. Is there an official date on that one, Peter? I don't know.
Oh, no, I don't know. I think we just go for January. Just do it.
Yeah. Brilliant. So for anybody that's not heard my voice before, it's Kirk speaking. I'm one of the co-founders. I'm more of a technical person within the business. And I'll just hand over to James so he can introduce himself as well.
Yeah, cheers, Kirk. So I'm James as well, one of the co-founders, and I am not so technical.
Together, it's the dream team.
Yeah.
Have you guys done a podcast before? Have you ever done a podcast?
We've never been on it at the same time, have we?
No. Kirk always does them because he's got the nice posh voice, as I mentioned before. But Kirk explains things technical, and then I just translate it into human language. So. Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll have to keep it very non-technical because my level's like down there somewhere, right?
It's like explaining my technology to my mum. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. I would. Well, your mum gave birth to you, so I think she's probably pretty smart. We're talking lower level than your mum, okay?
She does tell me I did teach you how to use a spoon, so you can't really, go back on that one, can you?
Brilliant. So how long? Talk a bit about Busby and Flare then. Talk a bit about those and tell the listeners what those services are.
So for anyone listening, you've probably heard of Busby, but you may not have heard of Flare. Put simply, they're both the same thing. We've actually just rebranded. So you may have heard of Busby. Busby is an app that you can download to any Android or Apple phone around the world. We've got 100 users in 129 countries today. And you can do it right now. Just search for what is now Flare in the App Store and you can download it. But I'd definitely go check out some more information on it. But it's basically a way of keeping you safe when you're outdoors and performing outdoor activities. Now, the reason for this, and there's a bit of a story about where it came from. One of our other co-founders, Barry, who's not on the podcast today, he's an avid cyclist. And to say this guy gets crashed into a lot is a bit of an understatement. But unfortunately, he does. So, in one of his worst crashes, he actually got T-barred by a van. Luckily, he went over it, over the bonnet, as opposed to in the sides. But long story short, it kind of set off a sequence of events where we started thinking about how can we get your family and your friends, how can you tell them that you're in trouble and accurately share your location so that they can get help to you very quickly. And the whole design philosophy behind this, which I'm sure any doctor, anyone in the medical industry will absolutely agree with, is the faster you get help, generally the better the outcome. Some people refer to it as the golden hour. It has been called other things as well, but put simply, the faster you get help when you need it, the better the outcome. And that was really the main design philosophy for what was Busby, but what is now called Flare. So it started with cycling, and you'll see like there was a lot of media interest around the cycling piece, but we very quickly adapted it for things like, well, the minute you leave your home, you're at risk of trip or fall or a collision if you're using micromobility or whatever it may be. So it actually covers any event where there's a risk of fall, trip, or collision as well. And that's really Flare in sort of a 120 seconds. It's a five-year journey in 120 seconds, I would say. So, James, you got anything to
add? Other than being a stat man, so it's for every minute passed, your chance of survival drops by 10%. So after a serious collision, so it's kind of getting help to people as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But over the 6 years, we now protect Deliveroo's fleet. We've got a number of other global couriers going live soon. A lot of micromobility partners as well. So that's kind of Flare in a nutshell. About protecting vulnerable road users, and we're now transitioning into the fleet and commercial vehicle industry around how can we start preventing incidents so from happening in the first place. So that's where we are today.
I've just had to Google it because my first aid knowledge isn't what it should be. We train first aid, but it's Maggie, my wife, that delivers the training. But if someone's heart, if you've got someone who needs CPR, they're actually going to get brain damage within 4 minutes if they don't get attention straight away. So that's the critical point at 4 minutes. As soon as that, and actually irreversible brain damage from 7 minutes.
Yeah, it's scary to think, and if you think every minute that somebody doesn't know you're there, then it's scary to think of the outcomes for what happens in real life for a lot of people. There are a lot of incidents. I'm not sure what the latest stats are in terms of how many a day or how many a year now, but it's scarily high. One's far more than we ever want. So,
so yeah, just on the back of that, so the Flare algorithm detects incidents within 30 seconds and gets help to them within 30 seconds. So, sends the location to 5 family members. If it's a courier, we'll send it to the ops team for that particular company. So there's 5 or 6 people from different directions getting to that person as quickly as possible. Yeah. So,
well, I'll just add to that actually. The algorithm actually detects it in real time. It gives you 30 seconds to respond because. And you might think, why don't you just get help straight away? And it's a great question, but the reality is people do fall off bikes, people do have crashes, but it's just your pride that's wounded. You've got a grazed leg. You don't need 999 coming out to you. You're just like, all right, I'm not going to take that corner like that again. And you're fine. You don't need that emergency response. So that's why we have this sort of 30-second buffer where it's like, okay, we've detected something's happened. Are you responsive? Are you okay enough to continue? And if you don't respond, so say, take the scenario where a motorcyclist taken a bend, gone straight through a bush, and that's it. They're Sparko, totally out. That 30 seconds will elapse, and that's it. So they don't have to press a button. It doesn't rely on you interacting with it or anything. It's just, we assume that the fact you haven't talked to the app, that's fine. And by the flip side of that, obviously, if you hit a speed bump or a pothole or anything, it's smart enough to know the difference from there as well. So it's not going to be going off every 10 seconds just because the state of the roads right now. So it's smart enough to know, listen, something's happened and now's the moment I'm going to get you help.
Yeah, it's a bit like the emergency braking systems on vehicles. So everyone listening will be able to relate to those challenges where it just picks up a road sign and decides to slam the brakes on, right? So you haven't got those sorts of challenges. It's interesting. We're recording this early January 22. Okay, so depending on when you're listening, that's fine. You're listening then, but this is a really timely interview. Certainly for me, I've been sat this weekend watching Ballers on Sky Atlantic. I don't know if anyone's a fan, but I'm absolutely loving the rocking Ballers. It's absolutely brilliant. But it gets interrupted every 15 minutes for adverts. And at the moment on Now, I don't know if it's Now TV or Sky Atlantic, there's 2 adverts that I'm absolutely fed up of seeing. One is the McPlant. So McDonald's have just launched the McPlant, their vegan burger with Beyond Meat. That makes me feel hungry. I'm not even a vegan, but every time I see it, I'm feeling hungry. And the other one is you've got the guy out running in the woods with the Apple Watch, the new Apple Watch 7's coming out. So tell me a bit, that seems quite similar or sounds quite similar to what we're talking about with Flare. Are you guys, because people listening, they're seeing those adverts now, and that's got a little bit of brain space in their heads that Apple have been looking at this technology as well. Are you able to just sort of do a bit of a comparison what that is so that people can relate to that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with Apple for many years. In fact, we were the first app that was ever approved for automatic incident detection in the Apple App Store. Now, even though Apple are advertising this now, they do a great job of making it seem like they've just invented something new. This has actually been on the previous Apple Watches for a few series now. It's just that they've used it as the leading thing for Series 7. I think it goes back as far as Series 5. Now, what had happened is when we first submitted our technology six years ago for review, Apple turned around and said, it's impossible to use the iPhone or any mobile device to detect incidents. And we said, absolutely not. We know it can be. We're working very closely with Bosch at the time, who are the world leaders in sensor technology. And we said, we can give you all the evidence to prove that not only is the iPhone capable of it, the iPhone's actually better than most handsets in the marketplace. So we put them in a bit of a position where it's like they either had to admit that the iPhone wasn't as good as the leading Android devices at the time, or they would basically have to go, we'd have to take it to the EU as an anti-competitive, anti-competition case, because we'd proved beyond any reasonable doubt, absolutely, we can do this. And not only can we do it, we can do it very accurately. An end result of that was, after many weeks of due diligence, testing, research from Apple and everything, we were the first ones ever approved, and they amended their app guidelines because of our innovation around this space. So we've worked very closely with them ever since. Now, I love the Apple Watch. I use it all the time. The problem is not everyone has one. If you're a huge fan of what you're seeing in the adverts and you think, oh, I love that, the fact that if I have that fall, if I trip, if I really need help, it's going to detect it. The good news for anyone listening is you don't have to go and spend £350 on a watch. You can do this on not just your iPhone, but if you are the other side and you like Android, it's available on there for you today. Just download the Flare app. It does the same stuff the watch does, but on both of those platforms. And again, already in use by 129 users in 129 countries today.
I think off the back of that as well. So the fact that, is it the biggest company in the world? It is, isn't it? Are obviously investing into this space. You know, we turned around to our team, our investors, and we're like, well, they've just proven that there is a need. There's a global need for this, and these 6 years of hard work and dedication to get to where we are has been, time well spent. So the fact that that is the number one feature on the new Apple Watch, and they're spending a lot of money advertising it, proves that there is a market for it. And for us, a lot of obviously we've got a free app for consumers to download, but we do a lot of work with the B2B side. So not every courier that is on delivering your pizza on the weekends has an Apple phone. A lot of them have Android phones. So, it's not really they've obviously taken a certain segment away from us, which is Apple Watch 7 users or people that are going to buy it, but it's very small.
One thing it does highlight, just aside from the Flare offering, is the marketing tactics that Apple will use. That actually they're trying to convince you to buy their 7 Series watch, but the 5 Series watch did it anyway, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It did it, but it wasn't as good. I'd say
Right,
it wasn't
okay.
as good. It didn't have the voice call to emergency services, but it still detected the incident and still set your location. But they've just improved it slightly.
Wow. So, okay. So, with regards how this would be introduced into a fleet operation, then is I've just downloaded Flare on my phone. It's a free phone, free service. Like, how are you guys monetizing that? How does that work? If you don't mind me asking about the business side, and also around how the dog's going to go in a minute, by the way, because my wife's just coming in the door. So I'm just pre-warning you. I'm going to go on mute once I've asked the question. But yeah, so what's the business side? And then also, how would you embed it into a fleet?
Sure. So this is where the second sort of product comes into it. So up until now, we've talked about Flare protecting people whilst they're out and about, and that's really Flare and what that's responsible for. On top of that, we have a new world-first technology, Road Radar. Road Radar is built specifically for fleet. What it does is it tackles one of the leading causes of serious injury or fatality of vulnerable road users on the roads, no matter if you're listening in the UK or any other country. We've designed this to be global. How? So that's the what is it, but how does it do it? If you imagine now that we have a lot of users, so Flare users, but also we can add any other user. So if you're listening, you've got a contact for Wahoo or whoever it is, any of those systems can plug into this system and share that you are a cyclist, you are on a micro scooter or whatever it is, you're classed as a vulnerable road user, and this is exactly where you are. Our system takes that information and in real time notifies drivers that in your blind spot on the left is a cyclist right now. And it does that without any additional hardware to what most fleets already have in the cab. That can be an existing pod. Say, for example, you might have something from Microlise. They run Android. Those are fully compatible. In fact, we're on their compatibility matrix. We're an approved software for them. So if you do run something like Microlise, you can benefit from Road Radar right now. Any system that's Android-based, any system that is Apple-based as well. So even if you're just running in your cab with a pod that is a Samsung or an iPhone or whatever it is, you can deploy Road Radar. Now, what's involved? First of all, we just give you an account and you download a bit of software called Road Radar to it. It takes about 30 seconds. There's no cameras required. There's no additional kit to be installed into the fleet themselves. So one, it's quick, but two, it keeps the cost low as well of deploying a solution like this. We actually have big, strong intentions of making this something that we can propose for Vision Zero. We've seen in London that there's laws about cameras, there's laws about other bits and pieces as well. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert like Beverly is, for example, yourselves. But we know that there is certainly an appetite for making the road safer for everyone. And we feel this technology is a really good balance of being a cost-effective, simple to deploy installation that can basically do exactly that. And again, that problem where driver awareness, because you didn't know someone was there, I'm going to say that most listeners will, all listeners will, if you're aware of someone being there, you're going to take a little bit more care of going around that corner or making sure that you're not, going to run someone over. So that's the whole design philosophy. It's really simple with Road Radar, is to let drivers know that there's a vulnerable road user nearby, and also do that without over alerting them as well. So we always have people saying, well, what if 60 cyclists go by? Am I going to be pinged 60 times? Absolutely not. No. We know that you're aware the minute the first one notifies. So you are generally looking around. Now, people's attention will vary and stuff. The system fine tunes itself based on when's the last time we alerted you, how far have you traveled since the last time I alerted you, how much time has elapsed since the last time. And through a mix of those factors, it makes an informed decision to say, do you know what, it has been a while, or you've traveled quite far, or you've moved to the next city. I am going to alert you now. Because you need to be aware of this sort of thing. So it is smart, and it does update itself depending on your situation.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. We're really proud to sponsor a Half Dozen Things podcast. At Flagship Partners, we take road safety really seriously, and we're your road safety partnership. We help transport companies with compliance and training across their businesses, including first aid, driver CPC, and other transport management services. So if you're FORS accredited or you want to improve your operator compliance risk score, give Flagship Partners a call today.
You ready for Statman?
I'm ready. Hit me with some stats.
So there's a 48% of fatalities happen due to lack of driver awareness. So that's exactly what we're trying to do. It's just raise driver awareness on the roads and prevent the incident from happening in the first place. So that's kind of where we came with this one as well. So we've got all these vulnerable road users using our Flare technology, and we thought, well, why don't we just start connecting them to systems that are already out there and already in use, just via our software. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, amazing. So essentially, this system's so easy to integrate. Whether you've got a tracker, whatever system it is that you've got, really straightforward to integrate and get it to use. What I would say to listeners, as a safety professional, we talk about the hierarchy of control. Okay, and the hierarchy of control is like an upside down pyramid. Okay, and at the top you've got eliminate. Okay, so if you can eliminate a hazard, or you can introduce, next step is engineering controls to be able to reduce risk from hazards. They're like right at the top of the hierarchy of control, and this is where we're talking. This is where we're talking. Right at the source is to raise awareness of hazards out on the road. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I think what's a real blessing for people that will be listening is that a lot of people listening will have just invested a lot of money, or their operators will have been investing a lot of money on direct vision standards. So having the cameras fitted, near side sensors, those kinds of things for 4 silver for direct vision standard. And that's only going to be increasing, certainly as other cities sort of take that into account through 2022. We're going to see introductions of ultra low emission zones, newer vehicles, newer technology, that kind of thing. But ultimately, the hardware investment here is pretty low, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And as you say there, Peter, it's, if you think of it as a journey, today it's on standalone apps. We're already in conversations with vehicle manufacturers. Now that is a longer term journey. It takes them 2 or 3 years to add a system, because it depends at what point you've approached them and where they are in the refresh of their in-cab sort of infotainment and technology systems. So we're well engaged with a UK manufacturer. Right now, we have a few other international manufacturers that we're engaged with as well. But the long-term vision for this is for it to be built into all the net new cabs, that they come with road radar. And it will be sort of that sort of thing on the back lorry where it says you're protected by road radar, or part of the road radar network. That is the view here, to become the global standard for road safety.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely amazing vision. What from a sort of future point of view, how long, or what sort of roadmap do you see this being taken up? Because I know certainly from my background working at Volvo, these things take time, right, to get into vehicle manufacturers and that kind of thing. It's no easy gig for you guys. So sort of what are you looking like on a roadmap point of view? And are you looking at cars and vans and what have you as well?
Yeah, got a good mix from everything from vans right through down to the smaller sort of last mile solutions as well. Really sort of the one we're most actively working on right now is sort of the HGV itself. So we're looking at the next quarter, so January, February, March, basically looking at completing some of the manufacturer POCs just to make sure it's working well with their systems, with a view to commercialize it. this point of the year. But that's for the integration into their cab. For anybody listening about, well, road radar sounds great. How could I give it a go? I'm sure Peter, you'll pop a URL or something in the description. But basically, if you hit up that resource, it puts you on the waiting list. We'll reach out to you. We do it very quickly, and we just give you an account. We're still in the final stages of the trials. So we're running some successful trials around London with the dust wagons down there, the dust carts, just to go and prove that this works anywhere, any place, any time, and they're going very well. With a view to then an end of this course, so around March time, I think it will just be open door at that point for people to come and grab it, and it's self-service, and you can just deploy it yourselves, sort of thing. But up until then, if you think this sounds great, I'd love to have some safety initiative like this, then reach out, and we can very quickly start you off.
I think on the back of that as well, so that's where we are with the integrations and the technology. So, it's ready, really, isn't it? I think the longer term vision for us is to prove that a road radar driver is a safer driver than someone that doesn't have this system. Obviously, that may take 6-12 months worth of data to start, so we can start showing how many incidents we potentially prevented, and then we can start pushing it into the insurance sector. Yep. And start reducing policy prices and stuff like that. So that's the long-term vision here.
Sorry for a little moment there. We'll edit that out. I was like busy scribbling notes down as to what to ask you guys next whilst I've got you. So apologies. Do you know what? I think it's absolutely fantastic with regards, particularly, operators, and I'll tell the listeners to just get in touch. Obviously, there's going to be a link. There's going to be a link in the podcast description. So please do click that link and go through to Kirk and James, have a chat with them, have a chat with Road Radar. You'll get the account set up. Or if you just want to ring through or drop them a message on LinkedIn, just mention where you've heard it on Half Dozen Things. But what I'd say is, operators invest loads of time and energy on improving driver standards and investing in training and all of those things. And don't get me wrong, this isn't an opportunity to bypass those things. This just works hand in hand and just helps you. It's just such a great system to be able to help support road safety for obviously both your driver from an insurance point of view, but also, people are in the general public. I think it's a really, really great opportunity. So I guess sort of my next question then is, so we've covered a bit about what it is. So what's the big why? Why has this come about? I know you mentioned earlier about Barry and his accident-prone cyclist. I don't know how much I'm allowed to make a joke out of it, actually, whether he's actually been seriously injured. I was kind of like, I'm not sure if I can make a gag about this, but hopefully I'm hoping Barry's in one piece, right?
Yeah, I mean, his funeral was lovely. No, I'm joking. It was fine.
No. He's like we call him a magnet. He's just vehicles are attracted to him.
He's still going, and he's still putting me and James to shame. He's the oldest one out of all of us, and he's the fittest one out of all of us as well.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. So, I guess with Barry and his cycling, so it's a really, really timely thing for us to be speaking about, because there's a big change coming up with the highway code and particularly cyclists as well. And actually HGV users are going to be right at the bottom of the hierarchy. So I'm not sure how aware you guys are of this, but I'm sure it's sort of coming onto your radar, pardon the pun, around. So cyclists are being told, like when I learned to ride, I was being told that you'd ride sort of the drainage cover distance from the curb, and now riders are going to be told to sort of cycle in the middle of the road. So talk to me a bit more then about sort of why it's come about and what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, I love telling a story. So everyone now knows the story of why Barry got T-barred and how it all happened. But if we just rewind time and get in something, I'm sure we'd all have a time machine and get back and go, right, okay, let's imagine that that driver now has road radar, what would have happened in that situation? So Barry has right of way on a T junction. He's going across the main top of the T from right to left. The van approaches the T junction and has to give way, but for whatever reason didn't either, the leading reasons, as James mentioned there, 48% of them being caused by lack of general awareness. There's lots of subcategories in there. Misjudge your speed, didn't see you, low lying sun, all the rest of it. But effectively, you can summarize all of those subcategories into lack of awareness. If the reason, and I don't think we'll ever know the actual real reason, maybe he was on his phone, I don't know. He did stop, he did call 999, so that was fine. But what would have happened with road radar? The driver would have been alerted that this cyclist is going across the front of you right now. And I'm sure that, if he had just pulled out without checking correctly, or he didn't see him because there was a speck of dust on the windscreen, or the sun was in the wrong place, or Barry is fast. Most cyclists, you look at him and go, yeah, I've got plenty of time. You pull out and it's just too late. You can't go anywhere at that point, and he's gone straight into you. I'm pretty sure that a system like road radar that alerted you, cyclists there, would have caused him to just assess that situation for a little bit longer and possibly prevented it. We'll never know if it did or not, but that is the design here, is to say, listen, for these situations where, 48%, that's close enough, half and half, isn't it? So 50-50, if we can prevent half of those serious injuries or fatalities, that's job done for us. We that is the design goal. That's what we want to do. So that's how road radar would have worked in that situation. And it kind of makes natural sense, because detecting the incident, getting you help, that's great, but you've been hit. And that got us to that point where we're like, can we prevent you getting hit in the first place? What are the leading reasons for that? And when we started to look at that, that's where road radar came through. And it was just a very clear answer for us to go, this is a problem. Yes, we can go and solve it. We can use innovative technology to do it. And it's not technology for technology's sake. It is a real clear use case of, actually, this could save lives. Let's go and do this. And we're really happy to be able to share the story around the system, and we're really excited for what this year brings, because this is the big year for it. So
I think another one off that as well, Kirk. So just for fleet managers and listeners, obviously the other way that we envision this working is, if you've got wing mirror lights and there's a cyclist in your blind spot, that wing mirror light will flash, but it's our software that's told that wing mirror light that there's a cyclist there. So it's not distracting the driver. The number one goal as well for us is not over or notifying or distracting the driver. It's using systems that are already built in and just preventing these incidents from happening. Nobody wants to hit or kill a cyclist on the road. And fleet operators don't want to be on the front page of the local news to say that their driver hit a cyclist. So this system allows two sets of road users to share the road together safely, which is, there's always that little arguments between cyclists and commercial vehicle drivers. So this system will, hopefully not just prevent accidents, but prevent arguments as well. So that's why.
Yeah. And Peter, I'll flip this around a little bit, actually, because I suppose, would you be in agreement to say that now more than ever, the impact of having a vehicle off the road is like times 2, times 3 compared to a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's a few factors here. Certainly, from my point of view, as an operator or as a provider to the operator sector, you've got the first challenge is you've got uptime. Okay, so uptime on a vehicle is critical. Margins are tighter than ever. So we'll just look at it from a business case point of view. At the moment, fleets have got the most restricted access to replacement vehicles than there has ever been. COVID has put pay to that, Brexit, whatever excuse you want to make, but chips being manufactured in China, whatever reason it is, at the moment, vehicle residual values of vehicles are huge. So if you get a vehicle written off, or if you have vehicle damage, it's going to cause you an absolute disaster. We've also got issues now where obviously we've got a workforce shortage because we're in times of inflation, and we've got challenges around workforce. So those same challenges that we've got with putting drivers in vehicles, workshops have got the same issue putting technicians in their workshops who are there to repair the vehicle. So repairs are going to take longer than ever, and then you sort of compound that challenge by the fact that you can't replace the vehicle. It's just an absolute disaster, a vehicle being off the road. Secondly, insurance costs are just on an absolute skyrocket at the moment. So it's just a nightmare trying to insure your vehicle. So anything that we can do to reduce risk or reduce insurance costs is going to be a great solution. So once this is demonstrated and proven, and the insurance companies are on board, what a great opportunity that is to look at saving costs as well. And then I think just sort of the last thing really for me is, we do a lot of training around vulnerable road users, and there's always the old, like we were talking about with Barry, the cyclist, and what have you. Like, there's always this sort of who owns the road type situation, right? But ultimately, it's very, very clear that we've got to share the roads. We've got to share the, we're getting more and more populated. There's more and more vehicles on the road. Vans, HGVs, all got a much harder job, particularly in urban areas. It's a bigger and bigger challenge all the time. I know there's a lot of legislation and regulation coming in, particularly around visibility and vision in vehicles. But if we can, I don't know about you guys, but the driver who's been born with eyes in the back of his head hasn't been born yet, right? So, whatever we can use to alert and give sense to a driver of a vehicle or someone in control of that vehicle, the better. We can train them. We can make sure they wear glasses if they need to wear glasses. We can give them vision aids. We can, all of that stuff's great. But sooner or later, we just need to try and see how we can support drivers better. What can we do to help reduce their risk? Because no one goes to work to do a shit job. No one goes to work to have an accident. And actually, we've found a cost-effective technical solution here, which I think is just an absolute no-brainer, really. Yeah. So there you go. I didn't even mean to pitch you guys, but hopefully I've done a little job with that monologue.
Just educated us on what our pitch should be. Cheers to you.
I see you scribbling notes down.
Yeah.
But it's just a different approach and a different thought process based on the challenges I face around managing drivers and that kind of thing. It's I think whatever you can do to support someone, even if it's in the background or in the periphery of their senses, I think it's just a game changer, really. I really think it is, because you've just there's so many challenges now. There's so many challenges when you're driving, and you can't have eyes in the back of your head, and you can't see around corners, and you often don't know what you're dealing with. So anything that can do to help support that, I think is a great solution.
Yeah. Unless you're using this system, because then that will see you around the corner for you, obviously.
Well, exactly.
But
exactly.
That was one of the main things we did in a lot of our early demonstrations, was the rural roads in the UK obviously have a national speed limit. Some of them, I don't know how you're going to go around those corners at national speed limit. If you're brave enough. No. I mean, I grew up in Gloucester, if anyone's wondering where the accent's from. So people that have ever driven around there will know that most of us fancy ourselves as rally drivers, because that's what the roads are like. But you can't see what's around most of those. This system will help with that. So you take the world's most advanced LiDAR sensors and everything else, and all the stuff that you'd probably see at CES right now, which is the big electronics show of the year, always January every year, and you'll see all little robots and things like that. And none of those can see around a corner. Problem solved. We already done it. And by the way, you just use a standard phone or Android device or tablet, and away you go. So yeah, we're pleased to be solving things like that.
I love it, guys. I really appreciate you coming on to chat to me about it. Is there anything I've not asked you? Is there anything I've missed? Anything that we can maybe give listeners a bit more detail on? If not, I'm going to give it a wrap up.
Well, we're the time is now for us. If you're listening to this and it's caught your interest, or you are struggling with rising insurance costs, you do want to guarantee more uptime on your vehicles, and Road Radar sounds interesting to you, then please reach out to us. I'm sure it's in the show notes how to reach us. But if you could reach out, we're more than happy to have a conversation, show you it in action, and it's a no pressure anything like that. But we believe in this technology, and we've got some great people behind it, some great companies behind it as well. It's built here in the UK, and we think we can really raise the global standard for how you keep vulnerable road users safe.
Awesome. I just want to say I really appreciate what you guys are doing for road safety, for vulnerable road users, for drivers, what you're doing to support them. I think it's really, really honourable. I think it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure for me to be able to hopefully introduce you to a lot more people. I think if you're listening, have a look at the show notes, have a look at the link, speak to the guys, give it a try. Just get the Flare app on your phone. You can start contributing. That's the least you can do. It's a free app on your phone, and it works on all of them. Get the app. Try Road Radar. I think it's really, really important. The more people using it, the safer the roads are becoming. So you're just doing your bit, right? And like I say, speak to the guys, speak to your customers. Think about how, those of you that have got a range of customers, if you're an external transport manager, speak to your customers to see how this can help support them. Because also, the more you guys contribute, the more this software can be improved, and all the time we can evolve. And it's here in the UK. We're not talking about Apple out in America. It's here, right here in our country, and we can do a lot better. So thank you guys for coming on. I hope listeners have found it interesting. I really appreciate you guys coming on. So take care, share it with your friends, and make sure you subscribe. Take care.
Thanks very much, Peter. Thank you,
guys.
I really hope you loved today's episode, and if you did, please make sure you subscribe and listen out for future episodes too. Please do share it across your social media channels. We hope to reach more and help more people. If you want to find out more about me, my name's Pete Rushmer. You'll find me across any social media channel and my business, Flagship Partners, and we're your partners in success across your business. Thank you. See you again soon.